Content warning. This game contains violence, gore, flashing lights, nuclear weapons, and jump scares. I really hope this aesthetic is becoming more popular because I just love games that have this look. The grimy textures ooze atmosphere and prompt a lot of hesitation on the part of the player, and First Winter utilizes this graphical style for an interesting effect. First Winter takes place in 1982 during the Cold War. There are two main areas in the game, a home in Los Angeles and a Soviet submarine. The sub is 140 nautical miles west of Los Angeles and may have nuclear weapons. Throughout the game, we begin to make out what occurred on the ship and hopefully do something about it. First Winter is mainly a first-person exploration game with puzzle elements throughout. You check every nook and cranny in your 80s home for all the references you could find to that time period. Magazine covers, VHS tapes, and a Commodore 64, all to help immerse you into that point in time. The submarine is dilapidated and seems to be in an aftermath of some horrible event. The game moves you in and out of these areas by these blank rooms and hallways that seem to shift and morph around you. Each change results in disorientation, where nothing is held solid, getting the player to fear every time it occurs. Unfortunately, the triggers for some of those required a little concentrated effort on my part, which brought out the artificiality of the situation every once in a while. But when it worked, it worked. What at first seems like a random mishmash of environments begins to come into clearer focus as you get farther into the story, to where you finally know what you're dealing with. There's a steady progression from confused and scared to understanding and scared. This is achieved through the puzzle elements of the game, where there are some puzzles you must solve before progressing. By having the player stop and completely take in their environment for clues, the game allows the time to contemplate the story and what's going on. Not to mention how great the environments look and fit in with the setting. The game taking place during the Cold War gives an interesting effect. The frequent pixelated darkness makes it hard to see anything outside of what's immediately in front of you. The cramped submarine and hallways the player finds himself in makes one feel boxed in, and thus a sense of both hesitation and defensiveness sets in. The grimy walls make for an environment that's gradually deteriorating. All these descriptions of the graphics mirror the time period it takes place in. A tense situation with hesitant defensiveness on both sides, where each side cannot see the other clearly, and thus the fear of the situation deteriorating further is frequently at the front of one's mind. With such dark themes, First Winter surprisingly is willing to shift away from that at times. The game is horror, so fear is the predominant emotion felt, and thus you would think the game would rely completely on that aspect, but it doesn't always. There are multiple endings, with at least two that I know of. I'm going to get into some spoilers here about how to get one of the endings since I think it's important to talk about. It won't spoil the ending itself, but the solution of how to get there. Skip to here if you don't want that spoiler. Okay? Here we go. The First Winter experience is not confined to this one game, but includes another game as well, Soviet Submarine Takeover. This is supposed to be a game inspired by those on the Commodore 64, with the problems some of those games had. It is difficult in all those frustrating ways, such as stiff jumping and level design that is more trial and error than challenging. The game is very short, so it's not unbearable, and is only required if you're trying to get the secret ending. I recommend that you do if you do play, since it completes the theming in a way that is more optimistic, whereas otherwise it's pretty bleak. By offering a lens into the past, First Winter also offers commentary on the modern day, if never explicitly stated. The conversation and ideas presented here are still relevant, and while not particularly in-depth, offers some interesting points to think about. So through the use of first-person horror, First Winter gives a tense but somewhat hopeful experience on a situation of the past that has been and continues to be relevant for our current time. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting me on Patreon or Ko-fi. Patreon is if you want to support me monthly, and Ko-fi is for one-time support. These videos wouldn't be possible without the generous support of my patrons and Ko-fis. Any amount helps this channel keep going. Anyways, here's my Twitter, my Instagram, my channel link if you want to subscribe, and some other videos I've made. Well, that's all I had to say. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you around.